Do you ever sit down to get something done, a quick email, a simple task, and then somehow 40 minutes later, you're deep into an article about how your luteal phase is affecting your creative flow? No? Just me? You too? Focus is hard, but when you have ADHD, it's not just this quirky little attention span thing. It can feel like your entire life is running with 75 tabs open, 4 of them are playing music, and you still don't know where the sound is coming from. Today, we're talking about why focus feels absolutely impossible sometimes, and more importantly, how to actually work with your ADHD so you're not just trying to stuff yourself into this tiny little box. And if you're someone who's ever said, I know what I need to do, I just can't do it, this video is for you. When I was in med school, sitting through a 3-hour-long anatomy lecture was my version of a perfect mental hell. I could feel myself physically vibrating with restlessness. And no matter how hard I tried to just sit still, focus like everyone else in the room seemed to be able to do so easily, my brain would be anywhere but in the lecture. So I started bringing one of those giant yoga balls to class, like those big exercise balls. I'll put a picture up. Those big ones you do core workouts on. Yeah. So I rolled that thing down the center aisle of a big 50+ person lecture hall, flopped myself down like a little chaotic goblin, gently bouncing in this sea of upright chairs everywhere else. Did it feel ridiculous? Yes, it did. But did it help me focus? It really did. That small movement of the bouncy ball was like a full body fidget. It finally let my brain settle down enough that I could really listen and absorb the lecture. And because I wasn't holding a fidget in my hand, I could still take notes. That was truly one of the first times in my life that I stopped shaming myself for needing something that was a little bit different. The goal isn't to fit yourself into somebody else's box. The goal is to figure out what works for you. What if I told you the problem isn't your ADHD? It's not that you're lazy or you're undisciplined. Your brain isn't working against you. It's working exactly as it was wired to. And when you learn to work with your brain instead of always fighting against it, everything gets easier. Focus, productivity, and especially your confidence and your self-worth. I don't want to fix you. I want to empower you to free yourself from constantly feeling like you have to be different from who you are. Here's the part no one talks about. ADHD isn't just about getting distracted. So much of it is the shame that follows. When you physically can't make yourself start a task and you get mad at yourself, calling yourself lazy. When you do everything else except for the one task you really needed to get done that day, and you're wondering why you can never get it right. When your work gets done, but it's at 9 p.m. after an entire day of avoidance where you could have just gotten it done during the day, and now you feel burnt out and annoyed with yourself. I've been there, and trust me, I know the cycle very well. The overwhelmed was too much to do, so you go into hustle mode to try and catch up, and then you burn out and collapse, and then shame yourself because you couldn't just get it done, and you just go on and on and on. You think, if I could just focus, if I didn't have ADHD, I'd be so much further along by now. It feels like everyone else got the instruction manual and you were thrown out on the field without a helmet, told to just figure it out. ADHD in women in particular often flies under the radar. Why? Because we're taught how to mask very early. We internalize it, we people please. We might become hyper-organized or hyper-perfectionistic to hide how disorganized and chaotic we feel inside. And this is what makes it even harder, is that anxiety can mask ADHD and ADHD can look like anxiety. That's why so many women don't get diagnosed until they're an adult. And even if they do, shame runs so deep because we've spent our entire lives thinking that these struggles are a character flaw instead of just a different way that our brains are wired. So let's break ADHD down because it's a little confusing because it's not really a deficit in attention, it's an issue with regulation. It's difficulty with executive function. So organizing, starting tasks, following through on those tasks. It's difficulty with emotional regulation, mood swings. You might feel really impulsive, feel the need to act on every thought. It can be a lot of irritability and difficulty with prioritization. When everything feels urgent, it's really hard to know which one to do first. A lot of this is coupled with a dysregulated nervous system where your body feels like it's stuck in fight or flight, and trying to focus when your nervous system is in fight or flight is like trying to read a book when there's a fire going on. The problem isn't that you're bad at focusing, it's that while you're trying to focus, your brain is scanning for threats, for quick dopamine sources, stimulation, anything that's going to make that discomfort go away. So how do we work through this? Because if you've tried every productivity hack, every medication, and you still feel stuck, just know you're not alone. Number 1, regulate before you concentrate. We're always going to start with the nervous system. So before you try and be productive, we want to shift as much as possible into that rest and digest state. Then your parasympathetic nervous system is going to be running the show instead of being in fight or flight. Before you sit at your desk doing a 60-second vagus nerve reset, so you can do vagus nerve massage behind the ears, you can hum, sing, sigh, take some deep diaphragmatic breaths. I'm also a big fan of getting your wiggles out in the morning. If you're someone who likes to exercise in the morning, doing that before work. It doesn't have to be a big workout though. You can just go for a walk around the block. My personal favorite is to just put on a song that really hypes me up and to dance for one song. While I'm working to help me stay regulated, I like to sip on adaptogenic nootropic teas. I'm drinking Air Blend today by Mind Body Herbals. It has adaptogenic and nootropic herbs. So those are herbs that are actually going to bring blood flow to the brain that make it a lot easier to focus. That's what I'm drinking right now. It really helps me to stay alert with the peppermint. It kind of wakes you up a little bit, focused, but also calm and not in that hyper focused state. Number 2, make distractions harder and action easier. A lot of people with ADHD struggle with just initiating the task. So getting started. One of my favorite strategies that I even used in medical school is body doubling. Literally having somebody else in the room who's also doing work. You're not talking because that would be too distracting, but just seeing somebody else who's focused and working somehow really clicks with your brain and helps you to lock in. There's also plenty of YouTube videos out there. You can just search body doubling and there'll be videos of other people working and you can put that on alongside you, especially if you're working from home by yourself. That's why you also might like working in a coffee shop. Oftentimes there's other people on their laptops, reading a book, doing something a little bit productive, so that inspires you to take action too. A really great way to get over perfectionism and perfectionism paralysis is to embrace the idea of ugly first drafts. This isn't just for writing, this is for anything. It just needs to exist. And then you can make it better. So if you tell yourself, I'm gonna make the worst draft I possibly could. Another thing I like to do is the what if game. And it's like this ugly first draft idea where I'll say, what if I just started right now? Wouldn't that be so crazy? And it's this idea of before I've concocted the perfect situation that my brain seems to think is what I need to be able to start a task, I'm playing this little game where I'm like, ooh, wouldn't it be crazy if I did something before I was ready? I'll do this sometimes if I'm procrastinating going to the gym. I'll be like, what if I just went to the gym and did 10 minutes on the treadmill? Wouldn't that be so crazy to only do 10 minutes? And then once I'm there, I usually end up doing more than that, but it's just that initial hurdle of getting to the gym. I just find that little game to be so useful. If you're having a hard time focusing at work, at school, you can play the game of what if I just sat down right now at my desk for 5 minutes and studied? Wouldn't that be crazy? Let me know down below if I'm the only one who does this, and if you have any little hacks that you use, I'd love to try them. The other way I like to make it easier to act is I use binaural beats a lot. So this is also things like lo-fi, using 528 hertz. It is really low frequencies and you want to listen to it with headphones on. I find it so helpful and I really think I've Pavloved my brain. Anytime that plays, it's time to work. It tunes out all the other background noise. And I know when I hear that, it's time to get serious. It's time to get stuff done. And number 3 for really working with your ADHD is to support the foundation. Your foundations of health are your sleep, your movement, your nutrition, and your nervous system regulation. ADHD can really be impacted by other things going on in the body. If you're not eating enough food, you're not eating enough protein, and you're having a lot of blood sugar crashes, this can cause a lot of brain fog. If you have low iron or low ferritin, that can look a lot like poor focus. So I always recommend getting your iron tested. Hormonal shifts around your menstrual cycle, huge ADHD flare potential. Especially during your luteal phase, your estrogen will drop, and that can really impact executive function. I have a free downloadable guide that's all about lab testing for mental health. There's an entire section on labs that I recommend if you struggle with ADHD or poor focus and think you might have ADHD. This might really help to uncover either root causes or other things that are happening in your body that might be making your ADHD worse. I'll have that linked in the description below. If medication is part of your ADHD toolkit, that's great. I'm all for whatever solution works for you. But there are herbs and supplements that you could explore to either have alongside your medication or instead of. But again, always work with a doctor. This is just for educational purposes. It should not be taken for medical advice. These are some of my favorite natural supports that I personally use and I recommend to my patients in practice. Magnesium, glycinate, and L-theanine, I think I've talked about them in almost every video because they are truly 2 of my favorite supplements. They are amazing at calming the nervous system down, releasing tension in the body, great for anxiety too. So if you have kind of that ADHD anxiety picture, I find both of those supplements to be really supportive. Omega-3s, so your fish oil, your DHA, EPA, your brain loves fat. That's its main source of fuel. Fish oil is one of my favorite supports for really optimizing brain health. Iron, so the caveat here is that you need to test your iron first before you supplement. Some people actually have high iron and you wouldn't want to supplement if you already have high iron. So again, download that free lab testing guide. It'll tell you exactly what you should ask for. As far as botanicals and herbs, you're looking for similar functions that you might find with ADHD medication, and a lot of herbs also have that same function. For increasing blood flow to the brain, really that stimulant effect that keeps you alert, you're looking at ginkgo biloba, gotu kola, and bacopa. Those are 3 of my favorite herbs for focus. For reducing inflammation in the brain, so neuroinflammation, think about herbs like ashwagandha or turmeric. And then for dopamine support, I do like to take a more lifestyle approach to find more sustainable sources of dopamine. But mucuna is an herb, it's a supplement you can take that does boost dopamine. I would just work with your licensed naturopathic doctor to find the right dose for you. I'll often blend adaptogenic and nervine herbs to support a patient's needs. If you're interested in more natural options for your ADHD, I do work one-on-one with patients. I'd love to support you and make a plan for you. The number one thing I want you to take away from this video is that you're not lazy. You don't need more discipline. You need a way of living that works with your brain, not against it. You don't have to earn your rest by finishing your to-do list. You don't have to hate yourself into being productive. You're allowed to take breaks. You're not failing. You've just been trying to operate in a system that was never designed for how your brain works. So let's recap. ADHD is about regulation, not laziness. Nervous system support is a non-negotiable. Your brain's way of thinking isn't wrong. It's just different and oftentimes brilliant. You're allowed to do things differently. You are not alone and there's nothing wrong with you. If this video resonated, please like and subscribe. Share this video with someone who needs this reminder today. You can grab the lab testing freebie below if you want to find out a little bit more about what's going on in your body and how it might be impacting your ADHD. I'll also put a link for the Air Blend tea if you're interested in some nootropic herbs to sip on while you're working. And if you're looking for personalized support for ADHD, focus issues, I do work one-on-one with patients and I'd love to support you. Till next time, I'm rooting for you every step of the way.